I mean, one of the things that you all mentioned is kind of the lack of information that we're getting from the ground. There's an internet shutdown, for example, but perhaps there's something that Gebremeskel and Fisseha can talk about, how hard it is to get information, and how are you getting the information about what's happening on the ground, and what is the effect on people locally about the lack of communication and information. And perhaps keep your answers short, since we only have so much time to talk about all of this. Thank you. Gebremeskel, do you want to start?
Okay, thank you. The impact of information blockade in this situation is very clear. It is just, I can express it in one word, that is just a catastrophic. When I was a chief of staff in a position of supervising all the operational workers in Tigray for the last 8 months, actually I am the first official who entered into Tigray after the war, and the last to evacuate from Tigray when the Tigray Defense Forces recaptured Mekelle. And I know the impact of information, the impact of blocking information. We were in a series of lack of communication between the zonal administration and the regional government cabinet. So this time, blocking communication in Tigray means just allowing thousands of people to die every day. We don't know when we were in Mekelle, there were 960,000 internally displaced people from Western Tigray and from areas bordering Eritrea, and we don't know what they need. And there was a clear blockage of communication, and this means that the government is deciding all these people to wipe out from the land of Tigray, as the special envoy to the European Union expressed it last year. So the international community has to know this, that this time, as it's expressed before, this is a genocide out of a microphone, out of the camera, and this is ultimately it is a strategic, and the government is ultimately doing this to hide the crimes that are happening in Tigray.
Thank you very much. Fisseha, do you want to go next?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry for the confusion. I hope I'm the right person to be called.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, as I said earlier, this war is also fought in terms of disinformation and misinformation. And one tactic or strategy of this misinformation and disinformation is the closure of communication and access to the region. So that's part of the war. So the war is fought not only on the ground, but also on the information space. So since the beginning, there was internet shutdown, mobile communication shutdown, and physical access restriction to the region. So this has denied the people who are living in Tigray their basic right to have access to information and to impart information. And as Gebremeskel has said, the purpose is clear. It's about denying, it's about controlling what information will come out from this war region, or a region which is affected by serious human rights violations. So the purpose of this information blackout is to control the flow of information, mainly evidence of human rights violation. And this has made our work very difficult. If you, the latest report which we did, it took us more than a year to compile and to report, because we didn't have any access to Tigray physical, even if we repeatedly asked. But also, communication was very scant when there was some communication even. So we had to use the period from March to June to intensively collect anything which we have to find, because it was not predictable whether the communication is going to stay or not. So that was only in main towns only, in Shire, and in some cases Adwa and Makale. In other places, there was no proper communication, no mobile communication. And this is also affecting the humanitarian situation in Tigray. Now, Tigray is under siege, not only physically, but also in terms of information, access to communication. And this has complicated humanitarian operators' action on the ground, because they don't know where the displaced people are, what is their need, their situation, their update. So beyond denying the right to communication, the right to information, it's also complicating the human rights work, the humanitarian work, and also banking, which is critical for some of the people to have their own livelihood. Because of lack of access to banking services now, those middle-class people are still waiting for handout. So the information blackout has also rendered people poor and look for food from humanitarians.